Southward they moved, to the Malay Peninsula and the oil-soaked islands of the Indies. They noted the locations of the white man's trading posts. They estimated the yield of the rubber plantations and calculated the number of ships needed to carry it away. Their military experts looked upon the heaps of chrome and tin and nickel and bided their time. Co-prosperity, they said, is the art of the possible. To the ports of the China Sea they came. They offered their friendly services as mediators in a border quarrel between Thailand and Indochina. The dispute was settled, and then the judge assessed the costs. Cooperation with Japan, or else. Up and down the coasts of South America, the red circle ensign of the rising sun appeared. For had not a Japanese statesman said, "Our people have a heaven-sent right to settle those parts of the New World which are climatically healthful and enjoyable." From San Diego to Vancouver, we welcomed their young seamen and tried to make them feel at home. They said we smelt of butter, but they swallowed their disgust, for there was work to do. Above all, they wanted souvenirs, picture souvenirs, of harbors, bridges, dockyards. Meanwhile, from capital to capital went the busy feet of Japan's #1 globetrotter and broker in pacts of non-aggression, Yōsuke Matsuoka. One of the more voluble of Nippon's diplomats, Matsuoka once let slip a regrettably undiplomatic statement. The mission of the Yamato race, he said, is to prevent humanity from becoming devilish. In the light of this, we cannot afford to copy the Western civilizations which are about to perish. And Stalin laughed and later asked, which is more dangerous, a rumbling Europe or a preparing Japan? And so Japan, friend or ally at one time or another of all the democratic powers, found her true friend among the nations. Assembled in Tokyo's Central Park, the people heard a message from a Führer across the sea. Our races are one in valor and efficiency. We share a lofty view of the state and its mystic ferment in the body politic. They heard the strains of Deutschland über alles, but perhaps significant of mystic ferments yet to come, band and people got out of time. At last, the double face of Nippon showed itself in its true light. Individually honest and unselfish, collectively treacherous and greedy. And even as they marched to war, they called it co-prosperity. And as the women of Japan renewed their vows before the shrines of Shinto and prayed in all humility to be made worthy of their soldier sons, so year by year their sons came back to them, came back to be raised to godhood by the Son of Heaven himself, but only in such numbers as would not reveal the mounting lists of casualties. But let us today make no mistake. Japan has been at war 11 years. She has lost more than 1 million of her men. But in the hearts of a younger generation, even now being groomed for the rigorous service they will be expected to render to their country, she is striving to implant the belief that their land, and theirs only, is to be the future light of the world. To them, Heideki Tojo issues a special call. We must return to the spirit and morals of old Japan. Everything which conflicts with this ideal must be barred. So in Japan today, the order is simplicity and severity. Every adult, every child must contribute his strength to the strength of a nation which believes its hour of triumph is at hand. All else is wasted time. Schools for workers, schools for farmers, schools for soldiers and sailors. Every profession is a fighting profession. Every profession must learn the high tasks of a master race. For the rulers of Japan believe that their nation has two arms of destiny, one stretching to the heat of the equator, the other reaching to the snows of Siberia and Alaska. Every man must contribute his strength to the strength of Nippon. It was men like these who carried off the Olympic swimming championship at Los Angeles in 1932. We cheered them then for the great athletes they were, but we did not realize the real purpose of their training. For it was expert swimmers like these naval ratings who, on the day after Pearl Harbor, opened the first bridgehead for the Japanese forces at Kotabaru on the coast of the Malay Peninsula. It was midnight, and there was a high sea running, so high that the defending forces considered any attempt to land impossible. But the impossible came true. The darkness concealed the heads bobbing on the waves. Through the thunder of the surf, not a sound could be heard. Many were drowned, but there were always more behind. And next day, they were on their way to Singapore. And just as the Imperial Navy represents devotion to professional duty, so the Army is the militant willpower of the nation. The Japanese soldier comes from a simple home. He's a peasant, a porter, a mill hand. But once in uniform, he partakes of the Emperor's authority and renders homage to the Emperor alone. He is part of a war machine built for use, not for show. Shabby in appearance, frugal in need, harsh in discipline. If you do not make austerity your aim, said one emperor to his soldier children, you will become effeminate and frivolous. You will grow selfish and sordid, so that neither loyalty nor valor will save you from the contempt of the nations. Remember that life is but a candle in the wind. There is no painless exit from this world. This, then, is the face of militant Japan. Some have said it is only an empty mask. Others, that it's the face of a savage. But of this we may be sure, that it is a face schooled through the centuries to hold all life in contempt, believing that duty is weightier than a mountain, while death is lighter than a feather. And just as today, the fighting men of the United Nations are testing the ramparts of Japan in preparation for the great Pacific offensives of tomorrow, so too they are swiftly finding the weakness in the armor of fanaticism worn by the children of the Son of Heaven. The double character of the Jap, they say, will be his own undoing. In his hands are modern weapons, but in his head is a muddled fate. The fate of a man driven into battle by the gods of a ghostly and barbaric past. Strike him with a faith deeper and greater than his own. Strike him with a contempt for death that brings not of superstition, but of fierce conviction. and his spirit will surely break. From every theater of the Pacific, the same answer is coming in. It is coming from the Coral Sea and Midway, from Australia and the beaches of the Solomons. It is coming from the glaciers of Alaska, where Canadians and Americans advanced together on the northern road to Tokyo. It is coming from the gallant veterans manning the fronts of China. All speak with a single voice, convince the Jap that we also do not fear to die, and the false mask of arrogance will fall forever from the double face of Nippon.